Hi, my name is Aster, and today we're going to be looking at this new interesting news that was recently dropped. And normally I don't cover drama unless it's absolutely massive to the ecosystem of Genshin Impact, and today I'm going to be looking at this, which, woo! So, I wasn't going to cover it, but I was actually in the middle of writing another script, or actually doing my research for a totally unrelated gacha gambling loot box discussion, because if you don't know, League of Legends also had a recent drop with the gacha that they're now implementing with the skins. Really stupid, by the way. So the fact that Genshin Impact is now under fire from the FTC, from the Federal Trade Commission, is so interesting to me, and I really want to read it. I haven't read it yet. I was in the middle of a D&D game when this information was dropped and was showed to me. But if you've been on my channel for a while, you would know that I love researching casino tactics, the predatory tactics, business tactics, and its relationship to media. That's basically my course. So to see that it's now like on a higher, with a bigger impact, I guess, in the industry, with millions of dollars in fines, I'm very, very curious how this is gonna work out. And I think that this has already been resolved, with Genshin Impact paying the fine and then like promising that they were going to have more transparency. I don't know how transparent you can get, but okay. So we're just gonna see what's going on. So Genshin Impact game developer will be banned from selling loot boxes to teens under 16 without parental consent. Pay a 20 million fine to settle FTC charges. So basically the Federal Trade Commission is finally zoning down on Genshin Impact as a gambling system. And because I won't lie to you and say that Genshin Impact as a gacha game is not predatory, I think we're all like, if we're all aware of how gacha games work, anything that has microtransactions that relies on certain addictive behaviors and the fostering of certain dopamine-inducing big colors, big characters, that's basically the entire gist of what predatory marketing is on a surface. We're not gonna lie and say that Genshin Impact is not a predatory game by any means. We're not gonna say that. But this is one of the rare times that the FTC has actually really gone down on it. And I'm curious if it has anything to do with the industry itself, if it's with Genshin Impact itself, because there's a lot of games in circulation right now that does have microtransactions and that does have loot boxes as their primary source of monetization. So my curiosity is why on Genshin Impact? And before anyone says anything, let's continue. The maker of the video game Genshin Impact has agreed to pay $20 million and to block children under 16 from making in-game purchases without parental consent to settle Federal Trade Commission allegations the company violated a children's... What? Is this a run-on sentence? The maker of the video game... Commission allegations the company violated a children's privacy law and deceived children and other users about the real costs of in-game transactions and odds of obtaining rare prizes. Interesting. Now, I'm going to speak about this not in defense of Genshin Impact, because let's not lie to ourselves here. No matter what kind of content creator I am, I would never advocate or ever promote the positive, oh, you should, like, oh, it's fine to have this kind of system in gaming. No, I honestly think it's really bad. But I don't know what they mean by deceiving children and other users about the real costs of in-game transactions, because the pricing of the Primo Gem conversion is pretty cut clear, and the odds of Genshin Impact's 5-star rates have been displayed on the about pages, so I don't know what they mean about deception. Now, there's a difference between deception and very, very predatory marketing, because technically they didn't lie to you that the odds of this were really, really, really tiny, because they can't, even by their own Genshin Impact's marketing standards. So I don't know what they mean by deceiving children. What do they mean by this? Genshin Impact deceived children, teens, and other players into spending hundreds of dollars on prizes they stood little chance of winning. Yes. said Samuel Levine, director of the FTC's Bureau of Consumer Protection. Companies that employ these dark pattern tactics will be held accountable if they deceive players. Keep that word in mind. The word is deceive. The word is deceive, okay? A complaint, ooh, we're gonna read that. No! Oh, words! We get to see the whole case. Okay, we're gonna do this later. I like reading really long documents, so it's fun. A complaint filed by Divine... Wait, let me go with this in another tab. Link it in another tab. That's how you know that you're, like, dealing with a college student. That's the first reaction they've got. Filed by the Department of Justice upon referral from the Commission, alleged the Singapore-based Cognosphere, PTE, blah, 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 and its subsidiary, Cognosphere, which do business in the United States as Hoyoverse, actively marketed Genshin Impact to children and collected personal information from them in violation of the Children's Online Private Protection Rule. I'm no lawyer, and these are very international laws that I'm not particularly, I'm Filipino, so I'm gonna have to research these specifically. COPPA. Okay, well... Oh, yeah. Interestingly enough, the FTC website is blocked on my end. I don't know anyone that's Filipino that can also access this website right now. But I can access this through a VPN, so I don't know what this is all about. Well, so I guess we're just gonna go for the Wikipedia. We'll read that later. The complaint further charged that Hoyoverse deceived players about the odds of winning particular sought-after 5-star loot boxes prizes and how much it would cost to open loot boxes to win the prizes. Okay. It also alleged that the confusing virtual currency system that players had to navigate to open loot boxes and the marketing and promotion tactics used to incite players to open loot boxes were unfair to children and teenagers. Okay, so this is gonna sound weird, but I don't know what they're talking about to just go for Genshin Impact. I think what they should do is to actually do a massive search of the whole industry altogether, because the tactics that Genshin uses, the way that they create this kind of money dissociation by making you pay real-life money to pay to a certain currency and have that currency be converted into another currency that is converted to another currency, is not actually Genshin only. This has been happening a lot, which is why, for example, when you do loot boxes in other games, League of Legends does it, you don't convert it straight into the loot box. So for example, they don't put the price on the loot box itself, that it's $5. They put a price on the package of the currency, which is, I think it's RP. Yeah, I play League of Legends every day. I don't touch that menu. And then they make you spend that RP for the loot box system, or you put it into another currency or something like that. Basically, what they're trying to do is that they're trying to dilute your idea of a currency into something that it's so difficult and complex for you to do math on anymore, because it keeps dividing, multiplying, to the point that, oh, it's just $100 it's like 8,000 Primo Gems, and that's a couple of polls like this, and then they're trying to remove that. They're trying to remove that association that you're spending $100. Now, the reason why I think this is important to actually zone in on is because Genshin's not the only game that does this, but it really does work. The moment that you create a kind of mental dissociation from a person, especially a child, remember that this is going to target children. And I think it's a good thing that they're actually making it so that their promotion tactics are much more transparent, especially to people that are young or people that are impressionable. A lot of people are gonna say that, oh, other games do this. Now that I'm really thinking about that argument, no, I think that just because other games do it doesn't mean that Genshin doesn't get to be fined. I honestly think that my previous statement was wrong. I think it's a good thing that they're focusing on this, because Genshin is targeted for kids. Like, the average age, I think, of an international Genshin player is much lower. Especially since the game is, you know, bright, colorful, the demographic is not necessarily for adults, it's plus 12. You could argue that the other Hoyoverse games are plus 16, something like that. So, I definitely think that they have a really good idea of what they should go for. Popular among children and teens, Genshin Impact is free to download, but has generated significant revenue through the sale of in-game virtual currency and other content. Okay, that's interesting. Like, yes, but let's focus on the gambling part first, my friend. Players advance in the game. Yes. Okay. The complaint alleges that Genshin Impact's purchasing process obscures the reality that consumers commonly must spend large amounts of real money to obtain 5-star prizes, and that some children have spent hundreds or even thousands of dollars to win them. Okay, so my issue with the way that the FTC is showing this entire thing is that it's kind of locking down on Genshin Impact with this weird pretense and implication of their argument that, oh, the children already spent the money and that's what's actually like sending blood in the water for the sharks. I don't know if that's the right message that you should focus on, honestly. Because my suggestion is that they should have worded it in a way that you're focusing on the system itself being corrupted, rather than I'm fixing this right now because the effect already happened. Which is children have spent hundreds or even thousands of dollars to win them. Because it comes off really, I guess, financial-centric rather than people-centric. That's just me, though. The complaint alleges... That's a whole ass complaint, by the way. I'm reading that later. The complaint alleges that the system is challenging and confusing, particularly for children and teens. Not wrong. Especially if you don't have a good concept of money. If you don't have another benchmark for money, especially if it's not your own money, then the obscuring is much more prominent. Players must exchange real dollars for bundles. Okay, this is reiteration. I think this is just meant for the people that don't play Genshin Impact, so we're just gonna go with that. Genshin Impact uses anime-style cartoon graphics, bright and colorful animation, and several characters who may have the speech or appearance of children to appear to children. I'd laugh, but they're not wrong. Listen, you can say all you want that Genshin Impact is not meant for children, but certain aesthetics of video games are meant to appeal to certain demographics. And Genshin Impact's bright, colorful, simplistic nature of narrative, as well as their choices of themes, for example, as well as their own self-censorship when it comes to narratives, make it so that they're meant to be marketed to a general audience instead of a specifically older audience. That is in opposition to certain games that, for example, have darker graphics, have blood, or have certain narratives that are uncomfortable or not appropriate for younger demographics. To say that Genshin Impact is not marketed for kids, or rather for that have kids in their demographic, that's the important part. It's not marketed specifically for kids. It's marketed with kids. Now that's still very, very important. That you have regulations that manage monetary consumption. It doesn't make it good. It's not good if to have a gacha game like this in circulation. They're not wrong for saying that, yeah. Hoyoverse has spent millions of dollars hiring social media influencers. Hi! Many of whom are popular with children. Whoa. I don't know the statistic of that either. That's a very bold statement to say without like consulting the actual metrics of who is watching this kind of content. To promote Genshin Impact to their respective audiences on social media platforms including YouTube, TikTok, and the video gaming streams Twitch. You can tell that this is like an older person writing it because like that is wild. The complaint alleges that the company's event banners and influencer campaigns give players the impression that they will have better odds of obtaining the 5-star prize being promoted than they have in reality. Okay. So I took on development. This entire thing feels weird, but like I get the notion of it, but I think that the execution or this person's portrayal of it in the press release is just kind of like a really off-putting to me. I just cannot explain why. So the complaint alleges that the company's event banners and influence campaigns give players the impression that they will have better odds of obtaining the 5-star prize being promoted. Okay, so if I'm getting this right, the reason that the FTC is thinking that Genshin Impact is deceiving its younger audience is because a lot of its content is allegedly giving the impression of higher odds. If you've played Genshin Impact, you would know that it does employ casino tactics, money obscuration, free logins, etc., etc. But to say that the banner and the influencer is impression of odds is a really high statement, because I genuinely think this needed deeper research. This needed a kind of player survey. I don't know how they're supposed to say this, but I don't know if that's a valid criticism completely. To just say that. It feels kind of irresponsible. But they're not wrong. High colors, big words, big loud voices are very appealing for a younger demographic, and maybe they have the data. I do want to believe that the FTC is not just like throwing random shade at people. I do think that they have the data to back this up, but it's a very interesting thing to focus on, in my opinion. Next is we have the COPPA violations. Now this is very important. This is very important. I genuinely think that children should always be protected on social media, on any kind of gaming, any kind of online content, any kind of video games. Children should be protected because they are the most vulnerable demographics out of everyone. And Genshin Impact having a lot of like very young player base is not something I think that they anticipated internationally, because if I'm not mistaken, the average Genshin Impact audience in China, for example, was ages 20. I think it was 18 to 25. That's the main demographic. But you can't exactly say that, you know, billion-dollar company can just have that, oh, sorry, we didn't know, ooh. They can't do that. They have teams of market research and they have funded marketing for so much. You cannot say something like that. That is irresponsible. So, basically it follows the COPPA rule, which requires online services and websites directed to children under 13 to notify parents about the personal information they collect and to obtain verifiable parental consent before collecting and using any personal information collected from children. Now, we're gonna have to look at Genshin's terms of service. This is so weird. I don't know why I decided to do this. Okay. I had to cut that off because I accidentally showed my full name on my recording. So, we have here... Yeah. What the hell are we doing with our lives? I'm so bored. We have here the Genshin Impact Terms and Service. Now, fun fact. This is the second time that I've read through this. This will not be my first time reading through this. Of course, I forgot everything, but like... Now, the complaint here is by COPPA. They are not informing the parents. Which, very, very valid, by the way. I genuinely think it's super valid. If your concern is that they are not notifying the parents when they collect personal information from children, that is super valid. Very valid, no worries. The complaint alleges that Genshin Impact is a child-directed online service. Okay, maybe child-directed is a little too much. Child-directed might not be it, but not wrong. Child-inclusive might be my word. That collects personal information from children under 13 and therefore is required by COPPA to notify parents. Interesting. Genshin Impact itself is marketed for 12+. That is the target demographic of Genshin Impact according to its ratings, okay? According to its ratings. So it's a very bold assumption to say that children under 13 and therefore is required by COPPA to notify parents about the information they collect from children and to obtain their consent from the collection of that personal data. The complaint, however, alleges that even though Hoyoverse was aware that the children under 13 were using its service, it continued to collect personal information from children and use it without obtaining parental consent or complying with other COPPA requirements. Hoyoverse shared with third-party analytics firms and advisors user IDs. I like what they're saying that like other media content aren't. SN. Playing the devil's advocate here. As a Filipino, like just looking in from this whole situation internationally, Hoyoverse shared with third-party analytics and user IDs as well as device-related persistent identifiers to track players' progress, purchase settings, and friends list according to the complaint. Interesting. So, I don't think that's wrong. A lot of the privacy notifications that are actually in place when it comes to applications. Have you ever read Facebook's terms of service or privacy notice? I had to. They also take hardware, for example. They take hardware, how long, like what your calls are, and things from your other applications, which is why their ads are very, very scarily accurate. So, let's see. Oh, I see USA. Blah, 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 blah. User contributions. Okay, privacy. Please refer to Cognosphere's. Oh, man, it's a whole separate thing. You acknowledge that all communications within our forums or chat areas in the Cognosphere services may be made public and are not confidential. Interesting. You have no expectation of privacy regarding your use of such forums. Blah blah blah. This is for something else. Okay, so we're gonna have to look for privacy. Okay, we're gonna look for the privacy. These are blah, 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 blah. This is TOT, but I think it's pretty much the same. Yeah. So hello everybody, welcome to some reading, some laws. So what did they have? Account registration information, name, verifiable open ID. Okay. Connected social media account information for your third parties in case you use Google, Facebook, etc. Malicious game information, survey, internet protocol. Okay, so here it is, advertising information. Advertising ID and select device information. We store the advertising ID for the advertisement and the other device information with your profile to track the success of our advertising and marketing programs. Besides, after taking appropriate technical security measures to de-identify your email address, including email address collected from third-party social media providers, may log in via. Okay. Now, PayPal account. Whoa. Okay, this is very important. Name, bank credit number, card expiration date, billing address, and CVV. Keep that in mind. Okay. When you use or interact with third-party services that may be available on our services, such as third-party social, this privacy policy does not and will not extend to such features, which shall subject. Okay. Data we automatically collect, why we collect your personal data, advertisements and your choices, cookies, who may access your personal data. Okay. So, my concern with all of this is how are you supposed to implement it? Genshin kind of replied to this. I saw the reply first. Genshin replied to this with a very they had a very PR related that, oh, we're going to open more transparency to players, we're going to do that. The question is how? Are you just going to tell them that, hey, we're collecting your bank account? Because technically the privacy concern, the privacy information is available for public reading. And obviously you can't sign a contract without reading it. You get the South Park Human Centipede iPad thing that, you know, happens. Don't tell me you just signed stuff without reading them. COPPA. Here's the other one. Third-party vendors. Cognosphere may work with the following types of third parties on or through our services to help us provide services and functionalities to you. Social networking platforms, logistics service providers who provides shipping services, information communication service providers who provide SMS messaging services, payment service providers who provide payment services, and advertising service contractors who provide marketing and advertising activities, including showing you ads that we may think interest you, conducting the program. And the important part is other contractors, if any, of the purpose of providing our services to you. Now, going back to the FTC. The complaint alleges that even though Hoyoverse was aware the children under 13 were using its service, I like how they're speaking like we're not on the internet. Listen, it's 2025. It continued to collect personal information. However, stated share was okay. Yeah. With all due respect, isn't this everything like what everyone else does anyway? Like, listen. With all due respect, this isn't new. So I'm curious if this really is the reason why FTC is focusing on all of this. Because, okay, this is gonna sound shady as hell, but I don't think this is the reason that they're focusing on Genshin Impact specifically. I'm not going to be making any claims, but the way that they have been like showing all of these, like what they're doing, sounds a little tone deaf for my take. Maybe it's just a press release. We'll look at the formal complaint later. But which must be approved by a federal judge before it can go into effect. Cognos fee. Wait, it's not yet approved? What? I thought it was already approved. I thought they already paid for it. Okay. Prohibited from allowing children under 16 to purchase loot boxes in their video games without a parent's affirmative express consent. Okay, how are you going to implement this? I'm actually curious. How are you supposed to implement affirmative express consent? Because number one, and Hoyoverse hasn't given like a firm answer to this, by the way. My concern about this matter is that if the child already has access to the banking information of their parents, then something else is happening. That's already an internal problem, that the child has access to the parents' credit card information, debit card information, etc. I think if you're going to implement this, is this like a written letter? And how would you have proof that I'm an adult? Are you going to ask for a national ID, a valid ID? Because that's what they do for banks, right? What they do for banks is that they ask you for your national ID and your ID, which it's gonna require another level of security from the audience. It's not going to be Hoyoverse that's providing the information. That's the thing. Remember this. A system that implements more security by requiring more information from the audience is not going to necessarily work traditionally, because even though the system, Genshin for example, can have all of these, oh, you need this, you need this, you need this, so that we can validate that you're over 16 and you're making this purchase as a person over 16, your next question is, what about the privacy? Because privacy was also brought up by the FTC. Am I going to have to give you my real-life ID and passport that I'm a grown-ass adult and not a child? Like, because Genshin has no cash-based, as far as I know, there's not a lot of cash-based purchases that can be made. And a lot of the big news, you remember that Singaporean girl that used her father's credit card to buy Genshin Impact stuff? Yeah. Why does the child have the access to the credit card in the first place? With all due respect, how did that even happen? The next one is prohibited from selling loot boxes using virtual currency without providing an option for consumers to purchase them directly with real money. That is good. I like this one. It goes back to the casino tactic that I was talking about a while ago, where virtual currency manipulation is a very obscure thing. I really like this change. This change I think is really good. This one is a little wild to me, but okay. Prohibited from misrepresenting loot box odds, prices, and features. Maybe I'm an adult, but the limited banners never really showed me that I can get them higher, or rather higher than what is already intended, right? But I think I can get what if they want to, honestly. if it's supposed to be a system change, my suggestion is that Genshin Impact removes the 50-50. Which is not a bad thing. Like, if they can just remove the 50-50, then that's fine. If that's what they mean by misrepresenting loot box odds, then so be it. Like, just remove the 50-50 and then, like, actually have it so that when you get to 90 or 70, you actually get the character that is featured, because that would technically be showing accurately the person on the banner is the only person that you can get as a 5-star. Sure. Required to disclose loot box odds and exchange rates for multi-tiered virtual currency. What? Is it? But the loot box odds are already there, no? Or do they want us to have a bigger... Because you know how we have soft pity. Soft pity is not in the description of... Soft pity is not in the description of the odds. But we all know that by median, it's there. Like, there's something that's manipulating the odds so that you get something from the you know, soft pity when you get 70. So I think that's a good change. That you're required to disclose soft pity odds. Required to delete any personal information previously collected from children under 13 unless they obtain parental consent to retain such data. Again, what is parental consent? Are you just going to look for the parents? Is that what we're going to be doing here? And are we... Okay, the bottom line of this question is, are we going to be required to give Genshin Impact a valid ID? Because, I'll be real with you, a lot of this can also be changed with the child lying. Like, just straight up, the child just lies, my friend. So the only way that I think that this can be implemented is if the tech and the service itself is gate-kept using actual information that's from the parents. There has to be a way. There has to be a middle point. Complete privacy cannot be at the expense of more privacy loss. I am not giving any of you my tin. Required to comply with COPPA, including its notice and consent requirements. It's just going to be a couple of boxes that people aren't going to read. It's a little wild to me. The commission vote to refer the complaint and stipulated order for the Department of Justice for filing was 5-0. Commissioners Andrew Ferguson and Lisa Holyoke, oh, I can't pronounce that, concurred as to counts 1 to 3, 1 to 2, but dissented as to counts 3 to 4. Issued separate statements. The Commission authorizes the filing of a complaint when it has a reason to believe that the named defendant is violating or is about to violate the law, and it appears to the Commission that the proceeding is in the public interest. Okay. So, it's not wrong that they're targeting Genshin Impact, which is a very popular game. You can say all you want that Genshin is dying, Genshin is something like this, Genshin... No, the revenue will always be its metric. It's a gacha game. But this entire situation feels weird. I say this as an outsider looking in. But the entire situation, the way that's being framed, is not completely wrong, but it doesn't completely feel right either. Because I feel like this should be, rather than the end of the conversation, it should be the start of the conversation. Because again, a lot of video games that are also marketed to children, that have loot box systems, and that have worked as predatory microtransactions, you know, havens for kids, looking at you, Fortnite, have kind of left the radar of the FTC. And I really wish that they would impose much stricter rules for something like this, because monetization in video games is very lucrative, and it's very predatory, and it's a big problem. Again, going back to the fact that League of Legends just recently showed that they are now fucking putting in gacha skins. It's stupid, it's so dumb. But in my genuine opinion, I think this is a good start. I don't know if they're a little tone deaf in my opinion, but you know what? Good on you. I just want to see how it's implemented. I don't know what kind of system changes Genshin is going to be doing, because a lot of its demands are Very interesting. That you're going to be requiring parental consent. How would you track that? How would you say that? Is it just going to be another box at the bottom of a terms and conditions that you say, oh, I consent to my child's data being used for blah, 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 blah. How would you know it's the parent? Number one, how would you know it's the parent? Number two, what's stopping the child from just like from checking that and then pretending that they're their parent? So the next question becomes consent and then validation of identity, which also goes back to privacy, because now you have the if ever that they do require validation that you are the parent of the person that's playing this account, what about the third party problem that your information is still being given regardless of age to third party advertisers, etc., which was another problem that the FTC showed. Now, of course, adults have a different story when it comes to their information being tacked on versus children. It's a different legal it's a different legal stance or perspective, because children are obviously much more vulnerable. You should not be marketing to children with the purpose of selling something so predatory like gacha games. So I'm curious how this will all happen. But let's look at the, you know what I'm more curious about? Let's look at the formal complaint. I skipped watching League of Legends for this. 37 pages. Words. Listen, I'm no lawyer, okay? The reason that I made this video isn't necessarily to immediately critique or to disregard this entire complaint as like, oh, people are so unintuitive with Genshin. No, obviously not. I think what they're doing is in the right place or motivation to do so, because I do agree that Genshin Impact is marketed for kids. I have a cousin that plays Genshin Impact and she's under 12. It's a game that very much appeals to children, and I want to protect them in a way that they are not being brought into a system of literal gambling and they don't have access to their parents' credit card accounts, please. Okay. So we have this summary of the case. Genshin Impact 7, the game's features animal style. Yet despite these children's-directed features of the game, and in this case, the defendant's knowledge that particular users of the game were children under 13 years old. Okay. This is interesting. I hope that they were able to prove that, by the way, that Genshin knows that the children of the game were... What is the mean age of Genshin Impact? I feel like that statistic is very important as a source for this entire complaint. What is the average age per region, per nation of Genshin Impact? I need to see this, as well as people that have spent on the game. I might actually do something like that. It's interesting. Defendants widely advertise and prominently feature within Genshin Impact select 5-star prizes, which consumers can obtain by opening loot boxes. The odds of any given loot box containing the advertised prize are very low, and consumers commonly must purchase dozens of these loot boxes, at the cost of hundreds of dollars to obtain a single 5-star prize. Yet defendants have misrepresented the player odds of obtaining rare loot box prizes, and defendants have misled players about the substantial expenditure likely required to obtain these prizes. So I think what they're really asking for is that just be more honest with them, that what you're about to get into is going to cost you couple of dollars. Not wrong though. I don't think it's wrong. Listen, I know that it sounds kind of like very Karen-ish to just say that, oh, you should be more open with them, even though, like, I think us adults would definitely be able to say that, oh, it's about to cost you, like, $600 just to get a PNG, which is your money to spend, but children don't have that. That's the thing. Children don't have that. Children are not as adept and financially literate as we adults are, so I don't think that we should be looking at this like, oh, it's so obvious. You could just do this kind of math. No. I don't think the reason why we're protecting the children is because they're not educated enough with this kind of thing, which is why it's our responsibility to protect them. First, defendants sell players virtual currency that can be used. Okay, so we read this. Defendants have unfairly promoted and offered to children and teenagers rare prizes that can be obtained only by opening loot boxes, which in some instances had led children and teenagers to spend hundreds or thousands of dollars in pursuit of these prizes. Not wrong. I don't think that's a bad thing. Or rather, I don't think it's a bad thing to critique. That sounds really off. I'm so sorry. Yeah. Genshin Impact's characters can only be obtained through rolling and in participating in the gacha system. And if you don't, you just don't get the character. It's simple. That's a very true thing. That if you have a game that has children in its market analytics, and okay, here's the thing. Even if the game itself is not marketed to children, I don't think it's child-directed. I don't think directed would be the word again. Maybe inclusive is the word that I would go for. But it's still never a good thing to assume that your market audience will only stay in your intended demographic. Most of the time, audiences will diverge. Yes, diverge, that's the word. So, yeah. Even if you say that, oh, Genshin Impact is marketed for 12+, let's not lie to ourselves here. There are children that are playing this, and there are children that are now being influenced to roll and gamble. And I also do agree with the sentiment that this should have been a foresight of the parents. I also agree on that one. That the parents should have known, or should also be aware of what they're doing. What their children is doing. And the fact that they have access to their credit card. Someone please. Congress enacted COPPA in 1998. Okay, providing clear, understandable, and complete notice of its information practices, including specific disclosures directly to parents. Okay. Interesting. Posting a prominent and clearly labeled link to an online notice of its information practices with regards to children at specific locations or of the website or online service, and including in that specific notice disclosure set forth in the rule, including what information the operator collects from children. Okay, now the reason why I think this might not be valid is because number one, Genshin does provide the notice, but I wonder how clear they want that to be, because it's in the game, right? I'm not insane. It's in the game. That where the privacy notices are, but I could be wrong. So can somebody please check that? I'm also trying to look for it. Okay, so I think it's very valid. They want you to make the privacy notices much more clear and to not bury it in a bunch of flummox. I agree on that one, honestly. I think it's a very good practice that not just Genshin Impact, but a lot of companies should have. They should be very upfront that, hey, if you're going to sign up for the service, one of the important things that you need to know is that we're going to be collecting this, we're going to be using it for this, and if you don't want to use it, then so is life. Obtaining verifiable parental consent. Okay. This is the one that I'm wondering about. Obtaining verifiable parental consent before collecting, using. Okay, how are you going to do this? Again, valid ID, valid national ID. Account must be on an account of 18. How would you know it's a parent? That's the thing. That's the weird part of it. Parental controls might work, honestly. Having the account be locked behind the parental control, not the worst idea. Anytime that you try to do a purchase, it just pulls up a pin that only the parent would know. Yeah, honestly. You know what that pin was supposed to be? It was supposed to be the CVV of the credit card. Anyway. Okay, so defendants, common enterprise commerce, defendants' business activities. Let's skip through all of this. It's basically just showing the court this is Genshin Impact. Okay. Hoyoverse purports to require players to acknowledge that they have read and agreed to terms of service and a privacy policy when creating the account. Unlike many other popular video games, Genshin Impact does not screen players' ages by way of an age gate or require them to enter a birth year. Interesting. So is that the legal, is that the way that they say that, oh, you're directing it to everyone because you don't ask for the age? Fascinating. Is that the legal way of saying that? And again, what stops the child from lying? But I think once you do that, the burden isn't on Genshin anymore, right? If you have the birth year and the user lies, then that's not their fault anymore, right? Again, unless they want to ask for a valid ID. I'm just hoping it doesn't come to that. I don't ever want to give Genshin Impact my passport. I don't know. I love you, but please, let that not be the end goal of all of this. Oh my god, it's a screenshot of Paimon! Paimon's in court! Paimon's in court. Genshin Impact includes visual content that appeals to children, such as an anime-styled cartoon graphics and colorful animation. For example, during the game, players are accompanied by Paimon, a childlike non-playable character that serves as a player's guide. It's over. Is this why they couldn't, like, go for other games? It's because, like, they don't have a clear childlike, like, Paimon? It's gonna be even funnier, right? Oh, there's more. Oh, this is interesting. So, childlike heroes. Heroes is the word. Okay. Heroes is interesting. Cause again, do we just not include children at all in any kind of media? That's a very interesting question, actually. Is it valid for you to say to never include children in any kind of media so that you don't accidentally become child-directed? And if that's not the answer, is there a way to actually quantify what is considered as child-directed media based on the based on how it works? Or is it because, like, characters like this are appealed more colorful, are much more muted? I think this is a grown... No, I don't think any of them are, actually. They're old, like, lifespan wise, but you're kind of insane to tell me that, you know, you're kind of insane to tell me that they're old. No one will believe you, bro. Hoyoverse has wildly hired influencers to market, okay? For example, some of these paid influencers won or were finalists for categories related to gaming and online media at the Nickelodeon's Kid. Whoa, what the? This is going places. I don't know where it's going. Listen, there's a lot of valid points here. That's a problem. There's a lot of valid points. But the way that I'm reading this, it just kind of makes me laugh. They're not wrong. They're not wrong, but... Okay, weird. Sure. I don't get it. I don't get it. Because not everyone at Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards are, like, kid-centric. Oh god, of course. Oh god, no they aren't. No, they absolutely are not. Some influencers hired by Hoyoverse to promote Genshin Impact became prominent by making content associated with games and activities that are popular amongst children, such as the video games Minecraft and Roblox. What is happening? Where are we going? The complaint just gets wilder and wilder the more that I read it. Internal planning documents used by Hoyoverse made note of whether hired influencers were known for producing Minecraft or Roblox-related content. In some interests... Oh, this is interesting. Ooh, okay. So, we go from... The reason why this is important is because this statement was kind of incidental, right? Just because I make Minecraft and Roblox content doesn't mean that I'm personally here for to market to children. Minecraft and Roblox just happen to be marketable for children, and me as a content creator have to be responsible to know that most of the people that are playing Minecraft and Roblox are children. And that's gonna probably be my demographic no matter what YouTube Analytics tries to say. The other part about this, though, is that this number 38 puts the pressure on Hoyoverse. Internal planning documents used by Hoyoverse. It means they're accusing that Hoyoverse is looking for child influential influencers. That's a different story. That's a different wording altogether. In some instances, Hoyoverse's intermediaries reached out to influencer talent management agencies and stated specifically that they were looking to hire influencers known for streaming themselves playing the Minecraft video game. I wonder if they have proof of this. I want to see the proof. I want to see your review of related literature. I need to see this. I hope that there's like a massive reference list at the bottom. Because I know that Hoyoverse already paid it 20 million. Hoyoverse paid for the fine, right? They paid the FTC commission fine. Which they're probably gonna come. It's probably just gonna be paid back after the Malvika ban. I'm gonna be real with you. But this is interesting. In some instances, Hoyoverse has paid influencers to display Genshin Impact promotional videos as part of a longer segment, in which they engaged in a different child-directed activity game like Minecraft or Roblox. In other instances, Hoyoverse has paid influencers popular among children to play Genshin Impact for their audiences to view. Okay. At times, Hoyoverse has encouraged these influencers to engage in child-oriented activities within the Genshin Impact. Okay, hold on. Okay. They be throwing the word child-oriented, child-directed a lot, so that's what I'm kind of criticizing here, but such as the hide-and-seek event within the game. That's prop hunt. That's prop hunt. Is prop hunt child-oriented? I feel like it should be, but anyway. Within the meaning of the COPPA rule, Hoyoverse has knowingly collected, used, and disclosed children's personal information without parental consent. This one's interesting. In many instances, Hoyoverse has continued to collect without permission, okay? What's this? What's this? Hoyoverse associates HoYoLab accounts with players' Genshin Impact accounts via persistent identifiers for, among other purposes, disbursing in-game login rewards to players who check into the HoYoLab social network by logging in. Oh. It's just something else. In many instances, Hoyoverse has become aware that HoYoLab users are children. They are very adamant on this weird narrative that Genshin Impact's audiences are just children. But I think they could have worded it better. That instead of just continuously advocating that Hoyoverse knows that they're... Because there's a lot of adults in here. Where do you think that 1 billion for... was it Raiden Shogun? Comes from? Some users have stated or indicated in communications reviews reviewed by Hoyoverse that they are under 13 years old. For example, in social media postings on HoYoLab or in posted Whoa! Listen. Isn't that a different problem though? Wait, that's wild. Okay, if you're watching my video right now and you are 13 under, or my cousin, hi. Don't do that. Genshin Impact or not, they're not going to give you free primos. Nobody is going to message you that you are going to win $500. Do not do that. Just do not do that, my friend. Do not post yourself on the internet as a child. Or anyone, really. Hoyoverse has in some instances taken limited and insufficient corrective steps when it discovered a post by a child, such as removing the post in question and muting the profile, but without deleting or seeking verifiable parental consent for the user disclosure of or other personal information of the child already collected. Thus, despite knowing specific users are under the age of 13, Hoyoverse has continued to collect, use, and disclose personal information from these users' Genshin Impact accounts without seeking verifiable parental consent. They are really putting the blame on the parents here. It's actually pretty interesting that they're just going to go like, oh, this is, the parents need to oversee them more, which is true. If your child is playing Genshin Impact, you need to know who are on the internet. Do not connect know when the purchases of your credit card are going to some place called Cognosphere, please. Hoyoverse has not sought parental consent to collect children's personal information or explained how Hoyoverse handled it. This is true. Okay. So, I think what I'm getting from all of this, and there's like a lot more pages. Oh my lord. They're going for the whole thing, aren't they? Yeah, look at this. They're going for the whole thing. It's a whole couple of pages describing how the Genshin Impact wish system goes. It's a little wild to me, but basically what I think is going on for the COPPA is that they're just really targeting protection of children, which I go for, honestly, yeah. I definitely think that's a good thing. I don't think that there's, besides the verifiable parental consent, how are you going to implement that? It's definitely an important step in any kind of game right now. to pay attention to what children are doing and are consuming on the internet, because I honestly do agree that Genshin Impact not having specific clauses in their terms and conditions that this is meant to be consumed by ages 13 above, unless they do. Hold on. Let me see. Okay, let me check. I wonder if they have it. Genshin Impact terms of service. This one's on January 1. So we'll go back. Let me copy paste 13. No years. Ooh, interesting. Wait. Oh, Interesting. Okay. I didn't see this. You agree to enter into this argument. You are an adult of legal age of majority in your country residence, and you are legally and financially responsible for all actions using or accessing the... Why am I accidentally becoming Kogonosphere's lawyer? Who am I trying to defend here? Interesting. You affirm that you have reached the legal age of majority. Ah, okay. Interesting. So, you can't play Genshin Impact without accepting the terms, by the way. It's impossible. You will get shot. So, how does this work? Because obviously you can't just say that, oh, you should have read the terms and service, like, listen. But how does this work legally? Because technically speaking, if you're playing Genshin Impact, you're accepting these terms of service. And if you're a child that got into here and then accepted the terms of service without reading it, is it the fault of Hoyoverse? And vice versa, if it... Oh, is this new? No, this is from January 1. Yeah, this was from January 1. Notes for parents and guardians. I was not I forgot this. You should never allow children in your care to use... Yeah, so this is in the terms of service. This is updated before the posting. I don't know when the fine was happening, but this is interesting. So does the complaint still stands? And the complaint is just filled with so many things. Damn. Event banners prominently feature a 5-star hero as the main prize that players can obtain to hope by opening loot boxes, alongside less desirable, less prominently featured 4-star heroes. Less desirable. Event banking. Okay. Okay, we're just going through an entire... What is happening? During the event wish, the exclusive banner character increased rate or likelihood at which Klee hero drop when players open loot boxes. Okay. This is interesting. Because technically, there is an increased rate when they say that there's an increased rate for receiving a new character. What does that rate increase? It's 0 to the fact that they're on that banner. It's technically a rate increase. Technically. You can stab me, by the way. Let's not lie to ourselves here. But saying that it's a huge drop rate boost is a little bit intense marketing and a little bit bruh. Okay? As much as I would love to say and give Hoyoverse the benefit of the doubt here, it's not. It's not. No. It's 40 minutes. Wow. I've just been reading this for like the past couple of hours. Hoyoverse uses suspenseful and exciting animations and sound effects to make the experience of... What is happening? Okay. I get why they're saying this though. Because a lot of the smaller things in Genshin Impact is what entices you to keep spending. A lot of people are... I'm, you know, as much as I laugh about it that, oh, why are you saying this? No, in the grand scheme of it, it's the little things when it comes to creating an environment conducive to a certain habit that purports that habit in the first place. To say that Hoyoverse is not doing this intentionally is wrong. And I think that the reason that they're very much going into like the nitty-gritty of Genshin Impact is because their assumption is that every part of the game is meant to foster this kind of habit. So this includes the necessary textual analysis or content analysis of the wish animation, the wish prizes, the wordings. It's just par for the course. That's why it's very detailed. And I can't exactly tell them that no, that's not the case, or you shouldn't do that, or oh, it's nitpicking, because it has to be nitpicking. I definitely agree that they're taking a very it might seem obvious to us, but in the eyes of market research, as well as formal market complaints and consumer analytics like this, it's very important. Because everything has a purpose. What is this? Okay, we're going back to Sniper Wolf. Sniper Wolf has tens of millions of subscribers on YouTube and is a 2-time winner of the Nickelodeon's Kid Choice Awards in the favorite gamer category. Why are we using the Nickelodeon's okay, I was praising it a while ago, but now I'm curious. Why are we using the Nickelodeon's Kids Choice Award as like this benchmark of kid content? Really? I don't think this is the content. I think, honestly, if you go to YouTube Kids and you look for the content that perpetuates there, if Genshin Impact is a category that is very popular there, then that's where you actually see if kids are interacting a lot. And I feel like it'll be a stronger metric than Nickelodeon's Kids Choice Awards. We know it's rigged. We all know it's rigged. Oh my god. Sniper. Zhongli is in a court mandated complaint. Let's go. We got him, boys. What is happening? Why are we in Sniper Wolf? How did we get here? Okay. Ooh, interesting. Okay, this is the one that I want to see. In many instances, Hoyoverse has represented that consumers who open loot boxes corresponding with event banners promotions will receive increased odds of obtaining the 5-star hero called the event banner. For example, was the figure 10, which is a high drop rate boost. Sure, I can see that this is a problem. You cannot do this. A lot of the tactics that Genshin uses is not also allowed technically by FTC. For example, you know how in the fake discounts for the intertwined dust, the fates and the acquaint fates every month that we get, you can't do that. You cannot create artificial hype by creating artificial discounts. This was something that Fallout 76 had to deal with before, so they completely scrapped that idea altogether. Yes, this is what I was talking about a while ago. That the purported boost in odds referred to the featured price being available to obtain at all during the promotional period was that it was from 0 to existence. That is not a huge drop rate boost. That cannot be. By technicality, it is from 0 to 100. That is not valid. And what the fuck? You can't say that. You can't say that. So I definitely see why they're targeting false or misleading advertising. Sorry, false is not the word. False is different. Misleading advertising. It's disinformation. Within the Genshin Impact game itself, Hoyoverse makes further misstatements concerning purportedly increased odds of obtaining featured 5-star heroes. Percentage of is 50% without additional context. A second detailed submenu within its interface states that the base probability of winning 5-star characters 0.6. A list of 30 days, okay? In reality, Hoyoverse offers consumers only a 0.3 in 1,000 chance of obtaining the specific featured hero when they open the loot boxes. To put these low odds into perspective, this means that even if a consumer opens 50 loot boxes in a row, the odds has less than 15% to obtain the featured. Interesting. So by their math, the odds is only 0.3. Okay, now this is an actual problem. Why? Because gacha games are not supposed to do that. I like this. This is true. They have to change this. I think if they have to be more honest with the odds. At the very least, not necessarily for kids, just, you know, for me. I like having honest odds. And to know how fucked I am, I guess. Consumers are also misled by Hoyo versus guaranteed to win 5-star character at least once per 20. Ah, that's true. While, you know, technically it's not wrong, again, the complaint is for kids. So not wrong. Definitely not wrong. The 50-50 system, pretty bad. Yeah, there you go. A consumer may need to open as many as 180 loot boxes at a cost, okay, or as much as 360 in total, simply to get the prize that Hoyoverse features on the event. Okay. Why are these unfair? It's here. Okay. So, we already know this part. It's about the virtual, what do you call this? This is just the general transparency of goods. Loot boxes, we've already been there. It's basically just the idea that Hoyoverse is not being as honest as they can be to children. And again, even if it seems very obvious to us as adults, or even to, you know, people that paid Genshin Impact for their things, we do need to remember that these are children. That's the importance of the entire COPPA and the FTC regulations. It's meant to protect children who are impressionable, who are susceptible to this kind of marketing. Let me tell you that they're not wrong. Honestly, now that you really look at it, yeah, I think that Genshin could do better, and that their content is being directed or has included children and the intention of marketing to children. Sure, we can say that, oh, it's a 12+ game, even if the terms and conditions are saying that you shouldn't sign this even if you're an adult. Let's not, you know, let's see it for what it is. That Genshin is a very colorful game. Its mechanics are very simple. Sure, the narrative is pretty difficult to follow at times, but mostly because it's for a general audience. The general appeal of Genshin works for kids. And then everything else works for adults. It's a very complicated system once you start adding in children that are impressionable. Consumer injury. Consumers have suffered, and will continue to suffer substantial injury as a result of the defendant's violation. Okay. A little wild statement there. Defendants are likely to continue to injure. Injure is a very big word, but okay. I remember that one, like, convention that someone stole a fucking Klee standee. It happened here in the Philippines. It was during Hoyo Fest. Somebody stole a Klee standee. She got back, I think, and somebody was banned from any kind of thing, but, you know, it's wild. Enter a permanent injunction to prevent further violations. Okay. So it's dated January 17, 2025. I don't know if this is illegal, already a legalese, but as far as I'm aware, let me see. I know Genshin responded. Genshin responded. Yeah, so they settled the agreement, because of course they did, with money. Cognosphere, the publisher of the popular animation style Genshin Impact, has settled an agreement to pay $20 million to the FTC for allegedly violating US children privacy laws. Something along those lines. I need to find the actual statement. I want to see the statement. I don't want to hear you people talk. Okay, here's the statement. Cognosphere, the distributor of Genshin Impact, has reached a settlement agreement with the United States FTC to strengthen and increase transparency and around our parental consent and virtual currency practices. A statement from Cognosphere is below. Animation-style games and shows are well received by global audiences and players across various ages. Not wrong. While we believe many of the FTCs are inaccurate, let's go. Not wrong. We agreed to this settlement because we value the trust of our community and shared a commitment to transparency of our players. Under the agreement, we will introduce new age gate and parental consent protections for children and young teens and increase our in-game disclosures around virtual currency and rewards for players in the US in the coming months. Okay, this is important. Number 1, Hoyoverse, just the reason why Hoyoverse is doing this is probably out of PR. Which is true. Because they personally believe that a lot of the allegations of the FTCs are inaccurate. But they wanted, you know, by their own words, they wanted to do this because they're committed to the trust and transparency of the players. Now, the last part's very important. What about the people in Asia? What about the age gate? Is the age gate and parental consent protections just going to be for the people in US? Do we have the metrics? Genshin Impact player base by country. Because if their wording is to be believed, do we have by country? Okay, so this is the revenue per download. I guess we don't got a lot, so as well. Might as well look at this one. So this is from January 1. This is as latest as we're gonna get because it's January. Singapore, Hong Kong, Japan, South Korea, China, Taiwan, United States. Okay. Now, my question is, since the FTC guidelines and the complaint is US based, is the age gate going to only be for America? Now, the reason why I find this important as a communications research student personally is because this problem is international. It's been permeating everywhere. And I don't necessarily have the information to tell me that the people that are playing these games in Asia are adults. Some people were just saying, though, that a lot of the players in the Asian countries are regulated much more, especially for children. They're regulated more than they are for the United States, which is why the average age of Asian player for Genshin Impact is much higher, which I'm not exactly going to deny. I honestly think that certain countries have regulations when it comes to gaming, as well as the difference in culture. So it's not impossible to say that. But until you have the metrics themselves, I honestly do think that this should also be implemented, or at least the safety procedures and the what do you call this? The attitude behind protecting the community should be global, because Genshin Impact is a global game. Sure, the FTC is American, but everyone could probably benefit from this. And if Genshin Impact loses like $1 billion bucks, and so what, you know? Sorry. But yeah. Just massive, what the fuck? Singapore, whoa. I didn't know that China was not as high as I thought it was. Like, Japan tripled it. Wild. Anyway. Yeah. I think that's it for me today. I just wanted to talk about this because this is very important to me. Not only because I always am a big advocate against gambling when it comes to video games, as someone that has also kind of has a problem. I'm not going to like deny that. This entire thing when it comes to gambling online, especially for children, is something that needs to be focused on. And as much as I love Genshin lore, there's a reason that I'm focusing on Genshin lore. Because I know that Genshin as a game does have its predatory practices. It's one of the first gacha games that were able to permeate on a global level, and most likely is one of the first ever gacha games of a lot of people, especially younger audiences. Gacha games for Asia, for example, are much more heavily regulated, and especially when it comes to distributing it to kids. So I don't think that the rest of the world has been as exposed, as researched, as the nation where Genshin came from. Which is why I honestly believe that there are certain practices that need to be done. While I agree that the FTC complaint is kind of wild at times, kind of missed the mark here and there, I think that the overall focus on it is very important. And I really hope, that they don't stop at Genshin. They don't stop at Genshin. Listen, We do not need more microtransactions. We do not need more loot box-based systems. Even if you say that, oh, Genshin like isn't the only one doing it, that doesn't make it right. If I stab a person, I can't just say that, oh, Your Honor, there's been like millions of murderers before me. I'm just like... But yeah, all in all, on a serious note, I'm happy that the FTC is focusing on this. I'm happy that Cognosphere is acknowledging that there are systems in here that need to be changing. And I hope that this wasn't motivated by the wrong reasons. Yeah. I'm not going to be talking about that because I am unaware, so I will not. Anyway, my name is Aster, and thank you for chilling with me. Longer video, longer discussion, but a very important discussion. Bye-bye!